Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Paul, it was so great to see the origins of the Diener. So funny. What did you base that hilarious accent on?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I mean, I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, born and raised. I grew up in sort of a suburb, not a suburb, but very, one of the closer suburbs to downtown Calgary. But everybody that you sort of see around you in the sort of that it's Calgary's like a small town, but it's a big town. It's like a big small town, and almost everybody talks like that. From my parents' friends to my dad himself. He talks, he has a slight accent kind of like that. And I'd go back to Saskatchewan and visit my dad's family in northern Saskatchewan and near Prince Albert. And everyone talks like that, cousins and friends. And so it was just in the air. So it was kind of like everyone talks like that, like Diener, but maybe sort of 40%. So it was just like you just dial it, you just like crank the dial right to the top, and it's like, okay, now we're fully, we're fully Deaned out.
Will, how did you get involved in the film? Did you know Paul or were you familiar with his work before filming this movie?
I've always been a fan of Paul's work. So at which point Paul and Sam reached out, I was blown away, couldn't wait to read the script. And then I was not surprised at all, but I was delighted at how incredible and funny the script was, and how how much I loved Glenn, the character, and couldn't wait to jump in.
Paul, I love how close Dean is with his younger sister. Did you base that on a personal relationship?
I have three sisters. So to say it was one of my three sisters wouldn't really be, correct, but it was based on my relationship with them as a sort of as a crew, you know what I mean? Like one of my younger sister, one of them, she was always kind of tagging along, like doing stuff that when I wanted to do stuff. And then me, I had an older sister as well. I was always, she was watching stuff like I don't know, Dallas or something on TV, and I wasn't allowed to watch that, so I would be around the corner, like watching it without her knowing, and she'd catch me and chase me around the house and stuff. So there was like this kind of loving kind of relationship, but also this weird sort of dichotomy where you're like, but I'm 3 years older than you, and so I'm cooler than you, and so you can't be doing the cool stuff I'm doing, and yet like the kid, the younger version is just like, no, but I want to be doing all the same stuff. So just playing around with that, like the love that comes with growing up with two parents who are kind of like, Glenn and Myrna are kind of like out there, so the only person who truly understands that relationship that you have with your parents is your sibling, right? So I really wanted to explore that, like that sort of that difference of like, yeah, of them being friends, but also, they're kind of there's a difference of age. And then ultimately when you're on an adventure together, everything is this, everything evens out. You're just trying to survive.
Will, how much input did you get into the character of Glenn, Dean's dad?
I mean, like any actor who's hitting a set with a wonderful script, your input begins when you start representing that character and representing the words on the page. There was no input necessary to create Glenn. This character came from Paul and Sam, and they knew exactly who this guy was. I just happened to agree with who this guy was. So the three of us, uh, fortunately had a very clear vision of who
Yeah.
this weirdo was. And it was, yeah, it was extremely easy to fall into. And we all started speaking Glenn's language together, which was a luxury as an actor.
Paul, you played Dean as a teenager and you just say, well, I looked a little older because it's so funny. What was your approach to playing a teenager?
Okay, well, one thing, I mean, I lost an incredible amount of weight. I tried to get down to how much I weighed back in that era, which I didn't succeed, but I dropped, almost 50 pounds. So being thin, being lighter, just having this sort of teenage viewpoint of the world where you're just so full of repressed energy and excitement. You're like a puppy dog, you know, like I would watch my own son when he would like walk to school and just like the sort of like the way he would walk, you know, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's how teenagers walk, you know what I mean? And like just jumping on picnic tables instead of just like sitting down like a normal person and kicking your bike off just with like reckless abandon. You know, you're like that teenage death drive that you have no thought for the net for tomorrow, let alone the next 5 minutes. Like everything is just like immediate. So yeah, it was that's what it was all about. I was just really trying to inject what it's like to be a teenager, knowing full well that I'm in my 40s and how preposterous that was. But I mean, still, you do get kind of caught up in it as a viewer, I think, that you know that it's, oh, I guess he's a teenager. He's kind of acting like one, you know.
Yeah, I mean, once you buy into it, it's totally believable and so funny. And I noticed that about the bike. I was wondering how many bikes you went through because you were pretty rough on that bike.
Yeah, no, I'm a master at walking the line between destroying props and treating them, abusing them terribly. People have always complimented me on my being able to walk that razor's edge because it was the same bike every time. I mean, I was repairing it like in between cuts every time. Like, oh, the chain came off, or I bent I bent the spokes. Because yeah, I was hammering that thing for the entire shoot. It was so fun to ride that thing around, man. Oh, that was great.
You shot your first film that Diener appears in on basically a shoestring budget.
Mhm.
How different was your experience on Diener 89?
Well, you tend to get ambitious when you've got a budget that's much more than anything that you used to have, and then all of a sudden you realize that you've been a bit too ambitious, and you have to start to pull that back. But ultimately, all I can say is that we were so fortunate. We had so many funders who came together to believed in this movie. We got way more than we thought we would have. We were able to make it. We were able to do real stunts. We were able to do really cool stuff in the hockey arenas. We were able to hire actors like Will. It was just like instead of it being like what you would typically see in a Canadian film, which is, you know, all the action takes place in the same three locations. Like we were everywhere. We were going to different places. It was just so fun to be able to make what felt like a really big film in Canada with Canadian actors, Canadian written, Canadian produced. And I would like to think it does not come off as a Canadian film in the sense that it doesn't feel like it was made with a shoestring budget. And we're really proud of that. And so it was fun. It was ambitious. And I think we managed to pull off something that is pretty hard to do, not just in Canada, but just, everywhere.
Will, you're originally from Vancouver, right?
That's right.
Are you still based in Canada or do you live in the States?
I live in Los Angeles, but yeah, I'm from the suburbs just outside of Vancouver, a town called Ladner, British Columbia.
Anything you miss about it?
Everything. I go back a lot though, so but yeah, I love the town. I was just there visiting some family and friends, and there were a couple nights where I was hanging out with a bunch of the old gang. Um, you're in the backyard in Ladner, BC, and yeah, no, it's a great place.
And one last question, Paul, you look so different from the Diener in real life. Do you ever get recognized as the Diener?
Not a lot, not a lot. It's actually kind of fascinating to be able to kind of fly under the radar and not really get recognized that much. If I ever have like facial hair, like a beard or a mustache or something, the recognition sort of kind of goes up. But yeah, no, I don't really get recognized that much. I mean, as much as I like, it just feels like I'm always hiding in plain sight, and basically after 6 beers, the Diener comes out, whether he's got the mustache and long hair or not. But I start to sort of manifest a lot of Diener's characteristics after a 6 pack.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for chatting with me today about Diener 89. Such a funny movie. Love the shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. Yeah, and thanks for taking the time to interview us.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, as well as the notification bell in the top right-hand corner if you'd like to see more of my celebrity interviews. Got a lot more lined up, so make sure you don't miss out on them.